Hi guys. Okay, today we're going to add and subtract imaginary numbers, but first we have to get the imaginary numbers out of the radicals. Okay, so the directions will say something along the lines of express in simplest form in terms of I. So the first step is to simplify each set of radicals. All right, so because remember you can only add and subtract like radicals. So let's break up this. We're going to keep the 3. I do know the square root of 36, and I have that -1, so I automatically pull that out. I bring down my 3. The square root of 36 is 6, and the square root of -1 is I. Now step 2, we multiply the numbers. 3 times 6 is 18, and I keep my I. Now I have to go back and do the same thing for the other radical. So I'm going to bring down my plus 2. I know the square root of 4 and I have that -1. I'm going to bring down my plus 2. The square root of 4 is 2 and the square root of -1 is I. And again, now we're going to multiply. 2 times 2 is 4 and we keep the I. Now the last step is to combine the numbers in front, keeping the radical term if you have it, or in this case, we only have i's. So it's just like adding variables with x's. If we had 2x's plus 3x's, we'd add the 2 and 3 and say we have 5x's. So we have 18i's plus 4i's. We have 22i. And there's our answer. Let's try one more. Okay, so first step, we're going to break up this square root of -27. I'm going to bring down that 3. I see the negative, so I'm automatically going to write a square root of -1. Now the perfect square that goes into 27, that's going to be 9, and it's going to go in 3 times, right? 9 times 3 is 27. Bring down the 3 that's out front. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of -1 is I. And we keep the square root of 3 because we don't know what that is. Next step, we multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. And we bring down the I radical 3. Now let's go back and do the same thing for the second radical. So we're going to bring down the plus 4. Now we're going to break up this radical. I see the -1, so I'm automatically going to write down the square root of -1. Now I need a perfect square that goes into 48. That's going to be 16, and 16 goes in 3 times. So again, I'm going to bring down my plus 4. My square root of 16 is 4. My square root of -1 is I. And I'm going to keep my square root of 3. Next step, we multiply. 4 times 4 is 16. And we keep the I radical 3. Notice these are both I radical 3's. Well, how many do we have? We have 9 of them plus 16 of them. 9 plus 16 is 25. And we keep the I radical 3's. So there we go, just like we did in the last unit. We simplify the radicals, only this time we're going to have i's in there. Whenever there's a negative under the radical, we're going to take out an I. We only add like terms. So if we have the same radicals or the same i's or the same I times a radical, you add the coefficients and keep the i's or keep the radicals. Don't change those. All right, guys, have a good one. See you soon.